Hi everyone, it's me, Spring the Fiber Enthusiast, and welcome to the channel. This is part 3 and the final part to our cardigan. Now, part 3 is working on the trim. By this point, you should have the bottom or the whole entire back and front panels stitched together and your sleeves almost done. You have them to the length that you want, with the exception of a few inches for your trim work. Now, the trim can be as many repeats of the 2 rows as you wish. That is entirely up to you. And the same with the front panels, getting the trim work on them. You can make it as big or small as you wish. I'm going to go ahead and get you started on the bottom of the sleeve first. I already have one complete here. And we'll go ahead and work this particular sleeve together. That way you can go ahead and work the bottoms of both sleeves. So what you're going to do is, here I have finished on the fifth round of the 5-row repeats. I'll get it all out, I promise. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We have finished the last of the 5 rounds for the 5-round repeat on your sleeve. We're now going to chain 1 and single crochet back into that stitch. Replace your stitch marker. Now you're going to place 1 single crochet in every single stitch around, with the exception of this very first one. This very first one, you're going to need to place 2 single crochets. So you have the one with your stitch marker, and then you have 1 extra one. We need 1 extra stitch because it is in multiples of 3 plus 1 for your edging. Okay, so once you have your 2 single crochets in that first stitch, you're simply just going to place 1 single crochet in every stitch around. Once you have done that, I will meet back up with you and we will do the next. This is the same as your beginning trim on your cardigan, the very first video. This is the same thing, except instead of in the flat, we're doing it in the round. So the joining and starting of your repeats are just a little different than when we did the bottom piece down at the beginning of the cardigan. That's why I am doing this, to show you how to do this in the round. So we have our 2 setup rows, which is single crochet, and then the crisscrosses. So I will be back at the end of the first setup row. We'll do the second setup row, and I'll show you how to move on from there as well. Okay, so once you've made it all the way around, you slip stitch to your very first single crochet. Now we're going to do our crisscross stitch setup row. So I'm going to, you can chain 3 if you, or 4, you can chain 4 if you so choose. If you do, place a stitch marker in the 3rd chain. I'm going to once again do the chainless start. So I'm going to pull my hook up, wrap around it, stick it back in the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And now I'll replace my stitch marker into that stitch. So there's our first double crochet. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to start by skipping back 1, 2, and into the 3rd. We're going to place a double crochet. So yarn over and go into the 3rd stitch back and double crochet. Now we're going to jump back, forward motion, And we're going to skip ahead of our very first double crochet or your chain, and we're going to skip 1, 2, and into the next we're going to place a double crochet. Chain 1. Now we're going to go back to the first skipped stitch and place a double crochet. And that's how we're going to work all the way around. Then you will slip stitch to where your stitch marker is, and that will keep that very first stitch as a crisscross stitch. I'm going to go ahead and work around until I get to this point. When I do, I will come back and show you how to finish up the very end of this round. All right, so once you've come to the end of your round, you should have 3 stitches remaining here. You're going to do one last final crisscross. Okay, so once you have your last cross stitch, you're going to slip stitch to where your stitch marker is, like that. Okay, so now we're going to chain 1 and single crochet back into that same stitch. Replace your stitch marker, and we're going to follow the same repeats as we did in part 1. You're going to place 1 single crochet in every stitch, including the chain 1 spaces. You should have a total of 52 stitches at that point. Okay, so continue on with 1 single crochet in every stitch all the way around. And when you reach the end, you're going to slip stitch to the very first stitch. I'll meet back up with you at that point, and we will work on round 2 of your repeating rounds. Okay, so once you have finished the single crochet round, which is the first of the 2 round repeat, we are now going to begin the second round. And then you will repeat rounds 1 and 2 of your repeating rounds to finish off your sleeve edging a couple of times. All right, so we're going to do a chainless start, pulling up the loop, wrapping it around, going back into the stitch, yarning over, pulling up another loop, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. Replace your stitch marker at the top of that, and chain 1. Now we're going to go back to the first X on the back. So if you're looking at the cross stitches here, you have this one that goes over the top, and then you have one that goes behind. The one that's behind is the one that we are going to front post double crochet loosely. Now we're going to jump over and skip ahead 2 stitches, 1, 2, and into the next you're going to place a double crochet. Chain 1, and once again you're going to skip back to that cross stitch that is behind and front post double crochet that stitch. Make sure it's loosely done. And you're going to continue that repeat all the way around till you come to the end, and you will slip stitch to the very first double crochet where your stitch marker is, at which point you will start repeating your single crochet round and then repeat this round for the length that you choose for your edging. So for instance, on this particular sleeve, I did it 2 times. I repeated our repeating rounds 2 times, finishing with just a single crochet round. Once you have finished your sleeve edging, we will meet back up and work on the front lapel and front panels and finish the trim around the collar. Okay, so now you have your sleeves complete. You're going to turn your cardigan right side out and face the opening towards you. This is the top of it and the bottom of it. We're going to start at the bottom by turning it so that you see the inside of the cardigan. And we're going to start at the very, very bottom corner. And we're going to place one single crochet evenly placed all the way up the side. So I'm just getting my stitch down here at the very beginning and slip stitch to it, chain one, and single crochet back into that stitch. Now you're just going to evenly place up the whole entire length of this to the collar, single crochets evenly placed. Now you're going to do that in multiples of 3 plus 1. So just like this. And I'm just crocheting over the top of that tail. Okay, so here we are, just single crochet evenly placed all the way up to the top of your front panel, at which point I will be back. Okay, so once you've made it to the top, you are going to be in multiples of 3 plus 1. Now for me, that was 70 single crochets. Now I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3 and turn my panel over. Now it's the front side of the panel. And we're going to do the second row of our setup row. So we've got our chain 3. Now we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and double crochet into the next. Chain 1. Come back to the first skipped stitch and place a double crochet into it. Now we're going to continue working this all the way down. Skip 2, double crochet into the next, chain 1, and come back to the first skip stitch and place a double crochet into it. Now you're going to continue the second setup row here all the way to the end, and when we get down to the end, I'll meet back up with you to show you what to do next. Okay, so now you come down to the end and you should have 3 stitches remaining. You're going to just double crochet into that very last stitch. Okay, so now we're going to continue to do our repeating pattern rows. We have our 2 setup rows done, which we're going to start with a chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet back into that same stitch. Now if you have, like I have here, this little point, it's okay. It will work out when we finish trimming the cardigan. So now you're going to place your stitch marker back into your very first stitch and work all the way to the other end, placing 1 single crochet into every stitch, including your chain 1 space. Once I've got to the other end, I will come back and we will work row 2 of your repeating rows. Okay, so once you've made it up here to your very first chain, you're going to single crochet into the top of that chain to complete the row. Now you're going to chain 1, 2, 3, turn your work back over, and now we're just going to do the second row repeat of your repeating rows, which is skip 2. So we're already chained here from our first stitch, and you're going to skip 1, 2 and double crochet into the next, and you got it. Chain 1 and front post double crochet around that first double crochet that you made of the X 2 rows below, just like that. Skip 2, 1, 2 and double crochet into the next, chain 1 and front post double crochet that first double crochet 2 rows below. Now you're going to continue this repeat, the single crochet row and this row that we're doing now, until you have the width that you desire. Now I did this a total of 3 times. I repeated those 2 rows. That is your discretion. I will be back with you once I have completed both panels. Okay, so just for a side note here, when you're working your panel, the one side, you work from the inside up to the top, from the bottom to the top. The opposite side, you work from the top to the bottom, working the inside row first. So just a little side note there to the pattern. In order for these drop stitches to work out on the front of your work, your first row has to be from the top down on one side and from the bottom up on the other side. So if you end your row, if you decide to only do 3 repeats and you end your row at the top, you will single crochet all the way around your collar, all the way to the top of the other front panel. And then you will single crochet all the way down, just the same as you did the opposite side, and flip it over and begin your repeats and stuff. So the same way that this one was done, you'll do that. It's just starting from the top down. So I've ended my last repeat up here at the top of the panel. I've done 1, 2, 3 repeats, and I ended with a single crochet row. I am now going to place my single crochets all the way around the whole entire collar, and when I get to the other collar, the other end, I will begin my single crochets in multiples of 3 plus 1 for the same amount that I had on the first panel, and do my setup cross rows like I did on this one, and then begin my 2 row repeat. After I have done that, I will return. Okay, so now you have both of your front panels with the trim on it. Now this is up to you. If you want to work some buttons on here, absolutely go for it. That is up to you. My one suggestion before you finish and sew in all your ends is to make one trip all the way around the collar, down both the front panel, come to the bottom, go all the way down the bottom, across the bottom of the cardigan, to the other panel, up the other panel, and meet back up wherever you started in slip stitch. And I would suggest just single crochets, just kind of tie everything together, get one nice clean line all the way around. That will finish up the cardigan. All of your trim is the same pattern. All of the body of it is the same pattern. The size of it is up to you. I started with 144 chains for mine. Now, you can go bigger, you can go smaller. Entirely up to you on how you want to do it. Just following along with me, it's going to roughly be a large to a small extra large. And the reason I say small is because of the height of the cardigan and the length of the arms. Not necessarily in the circumference, but also it's mainly on the height of it, because mine is based on a short torso. So keep that in mind when you're measuring yourself. And if you have made this along with me, thank you very much. I would love to see your work. You can share it with me in the Facebook group, private email, Instagram, any of that. I would absolutely love to see your work. If you have had any problems along the way, please reach out and we will work through it together, and we will get it all finished for you. Until next time, everyone, be blessed, be a blessing, and bye for now.